Today I want to start with a very important question. What do you do to cope with anxiety, stress, and fear? When you stop and think for a moment, do you realize that these feelings have become a part of your life? If you are like most people, maybe you constantly worry about your health, your financial situation, your relationships, or your future. Maybe your workload, your family responsibilities, or the expectations that society places on you overwhelm you from time to time. Sometimes you may even feel like everything is slipping away from you. You experience moments when you feel like you are out of control. Hopelessness, disappointment, and helplessness can take over you. What if I told you that it is possible to cope with these feelings? In fact, there is a way to not only cope with them, but also to learn to live with them in peace, to achieve inner balance and peace. Moreover, this path is a method that dates back thousands of years and has been adopted by both ancient philosophers and modern thinkers. The name of this path: Stoicism. Stoicism is an ancient system of thought that aims to live a virtuous and rational life in harmony with nature. Its foundations were laid by Zennon of Cyprus in the 3rd century BC, and later developed by great names such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. However, Stoicism is not a religion or a belief system consisting of strict rules. On the contrary, it is a philosophy of life that allows us to look at life more meaningfully, more consciously, and more powerfully. One of the most important things it teaches us is this: while some things in life are under our control, others are not, and we must learn to direct our energy to areas we can control. This idea is called distinction of control. It is the first and perhaps most effective principle of the Stoics: our thoughts, beliefs, intentions, and actions. In other words, everything we can direct with our will are what are under our control. But elements such as the weather, the behavior of others, economic crises, or past events are outside of us. For example, if you are experiencing anxiety before an exam, you might think from a Stoic perspective, your study style, your effort, and your mastery of the material are all under your control. However, the difficulty level of the exam or how the teacher grades it is not under your control. In this case, it would be much healthier to focus on areas you can directly influence rather than wasting your energy on things you cannot control. The second pillar of Stoicism is the principle of the 4 virtues, one of the deepest building blocks of the human soul: wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. In the eyes of the Stoics, these 4 virtues are not just abstract concepts, but also a compass on a person's journey to know, develop, and live an honorable life in the world. 1. Wisdom. The ability to distinguish right from wrong. Wisdom is not just knowing a lot. It is being able to recognize what is important. As Socrates said, true wisdom is knowing what you don't know. For the Stoics, wisdom is being able to look at events rationally, not emotionally. For example, when someone makes you angry, the wise approach is not to react immediately, but to stop, think, and try to understand the other person's intentions. Marcus Aurelius says, when something bothers you, it is not what actually happened, but the judgment you made about it, and you can take that judgment back at any moment. This is what wisdom is: acting with awareness, not reaction. Courage, fearlessly moving forward on the path we know is right. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite fear. We all face challenges in life. Sometimes it's an illness, sometimes a loss, sometimes a stance that society disapproves of. The Stoic advice is clear: do what is right, no matter what the consequences. Seneca writes, difficulties are there to test the courage of the soul. In everyday life, for example, speaking up for someone who is being wronged, or standing up for what is right in a crowd, is the practice of this virtue. Because courage is not only hidden on the battlefield, it is hidden in ordinary moments. 3. Justice. Being fair to ourselves and others. Justice is one of the highest virtues for the Stoics, because without it, the other virtues are meaningless. Epictetus said, people are part of a society, and each part must serve the whole. This is not just about justice in terms of the law. It is also about being fair in our relationships, our decisions, and even our inner world. Trying to understand a friend's mistake, empathizing with them, or honestly admitting our own mistakes, these are all part of justice. 4. Self-control. Controlling our desires, anger, and fears. Perhaps the most difficult virtue, self-control. Humans are naturally prone to desire, anger, and fear. But the Stoics said, he who conquers himself wins the greatest victory. It's easy to get angry and shout in the moment, but it's the ability to take a deep breath and be quiet that's real power. From our eating and drinking habits, to our spending on social media, self-control is everywhere. Seneca says the following on this subject: "He who is a slave to his passions is no different from a slave in chains. Self-control is the key that frees a person from those chains." These 4 virtues are milestones in the journey of life. With wisdom, we deepen our thoughts. With courage, we overcome obstacles. With justice, we repair our relationships. With self-control, we bring stability to our inner world. Thanks to these virtues, we can better manage not only the outer world, but also our own inner world. And it should not be forgotten that being a Stoic does not mean being emotionless. It means learning to be a manager of emotions, not a slave to them. The third and final basic principle of Stoicism is the view from above. This is a mental exercise to see our problems from a broader perspective. Imagine yourself looking down on the world from space. You will realize how small and temporary the problems that seem huge to you right now actually are. This awareness prevents the worries you experience from taking you captive and gives you freedom. As a result, Stoicism reminds us that we can be both strong and peaceful. By becoming aware of our emotions and learning to manage them instead of suppressing them, we can create a more balanced life. If this philosophy interests you, and you want to strengthen your inner peace, you can start to incorporate the principles offered by Stoicism into your life. Remember, true happiness lies not in external circumstances, but in the quality of your thoughts. Be wise, be brave, remain fair and disciplined. Stand tall despite the pain. Goodbye.